And now for the purpose of presenting the commencement address, I give you Dr. Ron McLarty, member of the class of 1969 and also 2007. Dr. McLarty.
President Nazarian says I have to be brief with my remarks, so they're going to be brief. It's a delight to be here with you, and I've thought long and hard about what I wanted to say, and I wrote it down, and I promise you it's going to come under 10 minutes. Anyone who's taken freshman English gets indoctrinated pretty quickly to the nuances and the differences of sentiment versus sentimentality. Sentiment consists of passions and attitudes growing directly out of your feelings, feelings that one is in control of, control being the operative word. So the realm of literature considers sentiment very good. Sentimentality, though, is its out-of-control, weepy, breast-beating cousin. Nothing is in charge. It's raw emotion, nobody behind the wheel. Again, in literature, this is bad, and the reason I mention this is because if I were a poem right now, I'd be bad. I stand here absolutely awash in those honeyed, bittersweet memories that give sentimentality a bad name. I swear I can smell the Rhode Island College Theater from here. The aroma is rehearsal sweat and makeup and hairspray, when I had hair to spray. And it's where I discovered that there might indeed be a place for me in this world. And I can hear the coffee house, too. Somebody's playing Blowing in the Wind and talking about revolution. And I hear the pages flipping in the library where I finished my first novel that I'm still not sure what it's about. One day you'll know what this old dog is barking about. Sometimes you just want to sink into a place that has informed every step of your life. But that is the past, and today is not the time for summing up. Today it's the graduating class of 2007 charging from the gate to take your places out there and to stamp your own singular mark on all of our lives with careers in nursing, education, communication, social work, law enforcement, medicine, business, and the performing arts, to touch on but a few of the myriad fields awaiting you, astonishing men and women. I was reading Rolling Stone a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed a quote from Keith Richards. He essentially said that if you were frozen in the 1960s and thawed out today, you'd think the world had gone mad. I think Keith was right, except he came up with the observation after falling out of a coconut tree and landing on his head. If some clairvoyant had predicted back then a celebrity-driven civilization, or a $50 million bonus given to one executive as a reward for terminating the employment of 25% of his company's workforce, or a certain New York Yankee whose single-season salary surpasses the entire budget of many American school districts. Go Red Sox! Yeah. But if they told us that, we'd pull our tie-dyed t-shirts over our shaggy heads. In 1969, when I somehow graduated from Rhode Island College, we were most definitely not living at today's astounding pace, unless you count two guys I knew who did achieve the jump to light speed chemically. Information we received was interpreted for us by the Providence Journal and Walter Cronkite, and not Fox, CNN, 8 million bloggers, MySpace, movie stars, spin doctors, politicians, although God knows they tried. Of course, there were some similarities between then and now. When I popped out of school, the Vietnam War still raged as Iraq does today. My first stop was the draft in Fort Lewis in Washington State. Like today, the war divided us not just politically, but socially and often personally. Another much happier similarity is that through it all, America still embraces that wildly diverse ethnic, religious, cultural landscape that has the rest of the world trying to understand our continuing societal revolution. A revolution given to us in the Constitution written by some fierce 18th century farmers. and one that still forces the nuts in Washington to toe the line. Yet, essentially, we remain as a country and as its individual inhabitants in a constant state of change. And throughout our history, most generations struggled mightily to recognize and understand the next. Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection has all of our species beginning the journey through a single parent. I'm not sure about that because we're a pretty crazy mix. When I think about my own children, as teenagers especially, I remember that creepy feeling that they weren't human beings at all, but aliens from a very distant galaxy sent here on a mission to take all my money and crush my spirits. But they came out the other side, and they came out smarter, fuller, better people than I remember being at their age. And they've showed me that today, this time in our history, this madly pulsating moment, seems in many, many ways more hopeful than 1969. Perhaps it's exactly the speed of things that's muddled the distinctive colors of good and bad, right and wrong, turning the known moral choices all gray, that has in turn created a more determined individuality so visible in your generation. This celebration of your unique place is even more remarkable because at a time when vast numbers of divergent groups, social and political, are vying to control the specific glimmer that makes you, you. 2 weeks ago, I visited most of Rhode Island's high schools via a video conference. My novel, The Memory of Running, had been chosen for the seniors to read as part of the Reading Across Rhode Island program. I can say I was truly astonished to see that the students had their own powerful points of view. There was absolutely no groupthink and no general relativism either. Their conclusions were their own. And as I look out over this beautiful graduating class, a few years removed from your secondary educational experience, I'm sensing your own inimitable personal perspective has been sharpened to a pointed sophistication. It's almost as if your generation's genetic database has unconsciously recognized the necessity of keeping sacred all things specific to you. And this fills me with awe and joy because I believe the single most difficult challenge you will face again and again in this continually altering and often confusing mega society is the retention of your true identity. Reinhold Niebuhr, the late philosopher, wrote about this dilemma and its importance in his book, Moral Man and Immoral Society. He concluded that the brutal behavior of human groups is overcome only by individual morality. That the individual is always superior to that group and will consider the needs and rights of others with a genuine sincerity that the group is not capable of. And finally, and what I think is his most startling revelation, that imagination and yes, hope are specific to the individual alone. Edward O. Wilson, in his collection of essays entitled On Human Nature, notes dispassionately that we are all, as a species, pretty uncomplicated. That is, eggs in the womb, we are 250,000 or more pairs of genes and 10 billion neurons. As babies, we are marvelous robots, launched into the world under the care of our parents. Our accumulating experience is soon transformed into independent and feeling creatures. We learn language, bonding, rage, injury, love, and all those things that make us human-specific. What isn't easy to explain, what is most probably impossible to explain, is the magic that separates us from one another and makes us each one-of-a-kind individual with our own quirks, our own humor, desires, imagination, and hope. My wish, my prayer for this majestic graduating class is that you will fill your families, your friends, and your chosen careers with your unique imagination and your unique hope. Godspeed to the class of 2007. Thank you.